well, and really kind of help everybody get the most value possible out of AI as it applies to this industry of government contracting. So we're very excited and really again eager and thankful for everybody's time. So my name is Yit. I'm the CEO here at CLEATUS, and today we're going to be kind of going on first a little bit of a brief introduction again into CLEATUS, what we do, what is possible with AI in this industry, and then kind of diving into some specific examples, talking about things like exciting AI workflows, how you can leverage AI for proposal writing responsibly, as well as really just building out these incredible systems to provide tons of value to your company if you're a one-person operation or a 100-person one. So really, and everything in between. That's one of the big specialties with CLEATUS. As we always say, you're never too big or too small to use this platform, and we're certainly eager to show everybody how to use it. So I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen here. We've got a little PowerPoint presentation up here for you to kind of give, like I mentioned, a good, I think, introduction to the platform and really a little bit more about what we do here. So to start things off, we are the AI for government contractors. And really what CLEATUS does is it finds, bids, and wins government contracts for you. So we're going to show you how that happens, how CLEATUS starts from learning your business to starts, really performing all these wonderful actions on your behalf. And again, if you guys have any questions, even if they're mid-presentation, be sure to pop those into Q&A. We're more than happy to answer them along the way or unmute you to ask them out loud as well. So if you want to kind of put your hand up with the emoji there, that's fine too. Mitat here will be thankfully moderating for us. So to start things off, we always like to kind of preface that we are an all-in-one platform, right? It's pretty much everything you need. We've been referred to as a business in a box before as well. And it's really the first platform ever built to really take every step of the government contracting process through winning the contract, winning the work, the discovery, the proposal, up until that award. And we kind of package this all into one platform and provide you with solutions to help actually perform these actions and hit these results. Our over 500 existing customers currently have won a little over $1 billion in contracts alone in 2025. So it's been a crazy year, and we're really looking to even surpass that this year. And so that it's been certainly an exciting time for what's possible with AI, and we're seeing a lot of that, the kind of results of that here. We're headquartered right here in Northern Virginia, Arlington to be specific, right outside the nation's capital, and obviously serving contractors all across the nation, even some contractors in Canada and whatnot as well. So really a wide reach, really the just about the largest community of AI-enabled government contractors there are on the planet is really right here. And so that's one thing we always want to highlight too is this growing community's respect for one another. In terms of some of these real outcomes, right? We talk about real actionable effects of using CLEATUS, and they are truly actionable. We always say it's not just about, improving a KPI. It's really about the net effect that has on your livelihood, your business, your bottom line. And so these are some of the most common ones that we see, some of the most impactful that we've seen. And it's really about leveraging that team that you have, whether it be just yourself or maybe a small team of a single digit odd number of people working in capture, BD, and proposal. We're essentially going to be helping you to leverage those team members, those skills more, on average, 6 times. So, each individual person is going to be just punching way above their weight class. That's always the goal. Each team that's going to get multiplied out, they're going to be almost an order of magnitude more efficient with the way they work, how they approach tasks, but ultimately with the same headcount. That's the biggest thing. We always say if there's a task that you are doing manually or repetitively, that's a perfect task that AI should be doing, because a minute of AI's time is always cheaper than even a second of your time. That's always kind of how we like to frame things. Typically, you're going to be seeing big time savings, no matter what specific task you're approaching, whether it be proposal writing or capture. You're going to be saving at least 90% of the kind of amount of time that you spend on that specific thing. If you're something that took an hour is now going to take minutes, right? That's kind of the way to look at it. And that again applies to anything from finding opportunities that your business should be going after, all the way up to actually writing the bids, preparing those responses too. So huge time saving factors. And what this leads to, that bottom line that we said, is higher win rates, right? You're going to be winning more of the contracts that you pursue. You're going to be pursuing more contracts and by virtue increasing your bottom line revenue and growing your business. There's more than one way to leverage these tools, but ultimately you can see that these kind of and these three examples, which are all user stories, which are on our website as well to dive a little deeper into, are really impactful to the businesses that leverage and harness AI in the right ways. When it comes to like specific ways that CLEATUS can help, there's four really good ones, and these are actually questions that we typically ask in our one-on-one onboarding or demo, the kind of discovery calls as well, because it helps frame what you're currently doing in a way that we can then look at it and say, hey, this is how you could be doing this with CLEATUS or with AI. And those kind of relate to some kind of broad categories, right? Finding opportunities. Does your team currently spend hours manually searching on SAM.gov, state, local, GSA, agency portals, just to like find the bids that they might qualify for? Is that something they're doing? Are they spending time looking to see if these are good opportunities for us, like reading through solicitations and running your bid no bid strategy? If the answer to that is yes, then well, we can help with that. We can make that so a system that scales and learns your processes first, and then allows you to not have to do that anymore. And that's kind of a huge advantage right there, right? That's kind of the very first thing from day one. If you start a free trial with us, our team is going to work to set all this up for you, learn your business, answer these four questions, and provide you with bang a automated system that's going to be doing these things for you. That's very much an immediate value add. The next one is going to be, hey, how do we track all of this, right? What if your company goes after 10 simultaneous pursuits at the same time, right? Viewing all of this in one place, understanding where we're at with certain opportunities in our pipeline, tracking, managing. If you have a team, for example, seeing where that team is, they have current tasks that they need to complete. All of this is extremely important. And CLEATUS kind of acts as that single source of truth, acts as kind of a CRM for you to use as well. So when we talk about an all-in-one platform, obviously you can connect CLEATUS and integrate with other platforms, but the key thing is, now we don't need to cobble together eight different platforms that we're all paying for to ultimately kind of service the same goal, right? It's just one complete platform end to end, and pipeline visibility is a big part of that. Another part is your proposal process, right? Proposals can take weeks, months, a very long amount of time to put together. Sometimes it can include writing, editing, compliance checking. And oftentimes you could lose that contract and all that time is wasted. However, writing a proposal is another process, right? It's a thing that you can teach to the AI, enrich it with your company's data, and then AI can run that process for you and bring that proposal up to 80, 90% completed with just one single click. And that's a massive difference where your team is not spending the 100 hours they have writing the whole thing. They're just spending that same 100 hours just perfecting, refining, and improving it. So you can immediately see how that could be beneficial to improving your win rates, right? You're using your limited resource, which is your time and your team's time, to the most high value things. And that's always how we need to be thinking. Finally, is competitive intel. This is a particularly important one because up until we came around, up until CLEATUS, competitive intelligence and good competitive intelligence, mind you, has been a very expensive thing in this industry, right? It's, double digit thousands a year sometimes, and typically kind of gate kept. And what we did was we collected all this same intelligence ourselves. We didn't purchase it and then redistribute it. We collected it ourselves. And we've put it into this platform to help turbocharge it to make it even that much more effective for you. But again, at a price that just about every company can afford. And that's really our biggest focus is to really make this industry more, democratic, make this industry more accessible. And really, the final kind of element that we put on top of all of this is automating these workflows, right? There are workflows in all of these processes. Each of these four different things revolve and are ultimately just workflows. And truly multiplying that force that you have, whether it be yourself or your team, is going to come down to, hey, how can we build these workflows out in CLEATUS and tell it to run them, right? Not just one single question and an answer, but long processes that the AI is able to execute, say, on a schedule or every time something else happens. And we'll give into some examples here. We're going to focus a lot on this during this presentation. One of the first kind of things that we actually set out to do was AI-powered capture. I remember a little over a year ago when we first started daily bid matches, like tailoring them to your business and like basically acting as that kind of top of funnel, getting contract opportunities to you that are perfect for your business, vetted, pre-qualified, already analyzed, running your bid no bid strategy. This is a big thing. We've really refined this down to the point where CLEATUS kind of becomes your capture manager that never sleeps, right? It's just going to do this constantly all throughout the day, scanning a litany, I think like 30,000 sources of opportunities that you would otherwise have to go to manually or pay for another platform to do. And we're going to bring them right to you, right? It's going to match your business. It's going to learn what it is you do, what it is you don't do. You're down to your specific preferences, like for things like size or things like certain requirements that you don't like or services that you don't like. And then match you with those in a way that, you're going to be able to immediately look at this contract and say, okay, pros, cons, good score. I like it. And that's really how simple it does become at the end of the day. I will say it's probably one of the most comprehensive databases of opportunities, ranging from federal SAM.gov all the way down to the individual localities, grants, teaming opportunities, education. There's a lot of sources in there, and that's really one of the main purposes of this platform again is to be the biggest book of business that your business can ultimately then find the right opportunities within. The next is I mentioned that pipeline, right? Every opportunity being in one coherent pipeline is really important for staying on top of things, especially as your team grows and scales. We can't be disorganized. We can't be missing deadlines, and having one place to kind of track all of this from capture all the way to award is really important. A completely customizable list, mind you, of opportunities that you can then assign leads to, track opportunities within with tasks, basically project manage, whether it be yourself or your team all synced to those deadlines, amendments, and deliverables that are needed to actually progress this contract through the pipeline. So not only, tracking is one part of it, but executing them is one part of it. And typically these are two different places that you do these things, but now it's one place and it's all in one thing that your entire team can access and see. There's obviously tons of dashboards so you can see your metrics. And really, again, customization is at the heart of this, building this process out to reflect your own and really just pushing forward with the team that you do have. Proposal writing is a really big focus of ours as well, because ultimately, that's our end goal in a lot of cases is responding to the solicitation. So I want to spend some time on this slide, and I will be showing our new version 6 V6 proposal writer as well, because I think it's quite astounding. It's probably the most AI native and most powerful proposal writer ever built. And really, its ability to plan, write, and then build your bid package is now not this like really complex system that you have to set up. It is quite literally one click. You say, start writing my proposal. And what CLEATUS just immediately does is it starts planning how it's going to do that. It looks through the solicitation and says, okay, I might need to make a compliance matrix or analyze any gaps or here, I'm going to build an outline. You literally see it do this. It builds out these planning files. It builds out like how it's going to approach the solicitation, but it's not a generic thing. So many platforms, it's our biggest pet peeve, are just like the same one, two, three, four, five steps over and over and over again. But CLEATUS is dynamic. It looks at that solicitation, figures out what exactly is required for this specific opportunity, and then creates its plan accordingly, right? But then in the same process, executes on that plan, taking all that knowledge that you gave it. There's a document hub where you like store all your information. It takes all of that and then puts it in the proposal too. So it's simultaneously being compliant and tailored, which are like the two most important things right now. And so that's how you get these complex proposal responses without them coming off as generic, right? It's not if your company and a profile I created built the same response to the same opportunity, they're going to look vastly different because one is working with my information, one is working with your information. So that's a huge key point with how the proposal does this. And that's actually a great point, Vidar. You mentioned protecting trade secrets and proprietary information. Really, really great question. That's a huge focus of this platform. We essentially are logically confining every single piece of that information that you provide. There's no like central CLEATUS model that's training off of this, right? You get your own CLEATUS. This is your business's CLEATUS. It's like a blank copy when you make it, when you make your account for the first time, and you put stuff into that like your company's information, right? Like your past performances, your processes, your proprietary knowledge, and then it writes with that. But that, again, that generalizes only to you. That does not generalize to everybody else. CLEATUS won't know anything about another company other than what's on the internet. That's kind of the way to typically think of it. But that's a great question. And definitely always security, privacy, these are really, really important topics as, we all work in a sensitive industry. And so it's a really big kind of focus of ours, from the very beginning, but also continuing to move forward. So always a good question. Competitive intelligence is another one. We have a tremendous amount of data in here, whether it be data on contracting vehicles or contractors, like their prior wins, potentially your competitors or teaming partners, down to even the contracting officer and like who they award contracts to, right? All of this information can be leveraged and should be leveraged when deciding to bid on contracts or deciding on your pricing. So you want to be making these decisions with data in mind. And the same thing goes for AI, right? AI shouldn't also be making these decisions without data. And so what we've done is we've made all this data accessible to you as well as the agent. And so when you ask it a question, it's going to have the context of like the whole market in its head when it answers them. So this is a huge advantage. Again, one of the biggest challenges with data is the first is just being able to access it, which I think we've solved. The second one is making it useful, right? How useful is a 10,000 cell Excel sheet? Or when you put an agent on top of that now, when it comes to like our big set of data, you can actually tell the agent to leverage it. It's going to read through that data much, much faster than we can. And again, we're not going to be wasting our time doing that. We're going to be getting the result, the necessary information out of it. We're just going to let the AI do the heavy lifting. So that's again really the key focus here with just about anything on this platform. And I always joke like we've said the word agent a lot. So quickly as agent, the slide is just about the agent. This is a really key component of the platform, right? Everything is built around the agent. And again, this is your agent. Like this is your company's central intelligence. It could theoretically know everything about you from your key personnel to your past performances and your capabilities. And so this is why it's going to help you bid faster and more confidently because it's not just a generic, chat GPT wrapper that doesn't know anything special about you and just has generic answers, right? It knows anything from the solicitation you're currently on to anything you need it to know about your business. And that's how you get it to be valuable for you. It's got capabilities like obviously searching on the web, right? Pulling from those contract sources that it's connected to, that market data, but even generating documents, spreadsheets, and PDFs. These are the tools that the AI has available to it to take any of your specific actions from the moment you ask it to an end deliverable. If you tell it, hey, I want you to do a pricing analysis and create a pricing proposal for me, and then give it an Excel sheet for maybe like your pricing, or you tell it to look on the market to figure out what pricing is out there, and you tell it output me a compliant, put this in a compliant response format. Maybe there's a form or an Excel sheet that needs to be filled out. CLEATUS is going to actually do what you just told it to do and give you that Excel sheet. It's not just going to tell you how to do it. That's the key, right? That's now a task that's been completed by AI. So that's a really, really great kind of example there. Yeah, and another great question here from Joseph Smith asking how CLEATUS handles subcontractors on our team for proposals. This is a great one, right? Teaming partners or subcontractors, whatever you want to call them. This is information that you would put in your document hub. You would say, hey, just put it under a folder, throw all their cap statements in there. And when you're writing your proposal, you can talk about that in the subcontracting plan. You just would simply tell CLEATUS, hey, I'm going to be working with these subs or teaming partners, include them in our proposal. CLEATUS will go to that, find out that information about those subcontractors, put that right into the proposal. That's one of many ways you could do it. You could also, again, have that same list of teaming partners and ask CLEATUS, hey, look through the scope of work and tell me which of my subs would be the best fit for these and why. Like that could be another great use case. And I can rattle off tons of ideas of how you can leverage that proprietary information of yours, which is your teaming partners, in these actionable ways. I hope that answers your question. Allison has another great question. CLEATUS writing like 80 to 90% of the proposal. And then what is that last 10 to 20%? That's a great question. So the last 10 to 20% of that proposal could be dependent on how much information you put in the document, right? It might be missing something. Maybe one thing that we want to highlight is it's not going to hallucinate. It's not going to make stuff up, but it will tell you, hey, I didn't have this information on you, so I didn't write this section, right? And then it says it'll probably ask you, for example, let's go back to that subcontracting plan. Let's say you didn't upload your teaming partners' cap statements or like some information about them in your document hub and went to write the proposal. CLEATUS would get to that subcontracting plan and then say, hey, I didn't know who to put in here, right? Can you give me blank about them? You would then give blank about them and tell CLEATUS, okay, now write that plan. Then it would write it. That's an example, right? That last 10 to 20% is not always going to be the same 10 to 20%. It's going to depend on the opportunity that and what it's requiring and what it doesn't have and does have about you. But The idea, the key there is how you go about completing that last 10 to 20%. Even that is agentic, right? You just tell it. It's going to tell you what it doesn't have. It's going to define what that last 10 to 20% is, and then tell you what it needs in order to fulfill it. And you're just going to simply tell it to do that. You're going to give it. And I'll give you guys examples of these as we kind of show the proposal writer off as well. But that's typically what it's going to be. That's a really common one. Another one would be like maybe pricing, right? It's pricing information typically, could be asked for, or it could just be simply forms. It could say, hey, I didn't see this form signed, and you would just sign that form, scan it, give it to Cletus, and say, hey, great, I got it here. And so you just go through it. It'll change every time. Yes, Joseph, another great question. So does Cletus understand different opportunity types, right? Contracts and grants? The answer is yes. So it'll understand any contract type. It'll understand any solicitation type. It could be like an R5 versus an RFP or RFQ. It Before it begins writing anything, it's going to plan, right? It's going to look through the solicitation and say, hey, this is what I need to do. It's not just going to approach everything like a just like a robot. And it's funny to say the AI is not going to approach it like a robot, but it really is that way. It's not just going to try to write a proposal for every opportunity, even though it's called the proposal writer. It could just need to say, hey, you just need these forms, right? Or again, it could say, hey, I need to write a grant response, which obviously is fundamentally very different sometimes than a proposal response for a contract. So it's going to understand what those requirements are because they're all in the solicitation. So it's all based off that. It's all dynamic. That's I think, the right word. I hope that answers your question. We have another question here, but from Vidar. Is there any option to work with a teaming partner directly in Cletus without giving them access to other business info outside? That's a great question as well. We are not currently, so we're planning on kind of a shareable link that you'll be able to share with your teaming partners so that they don't have access to like your whole profile and everything. So that's one thing that's really I think really useful. For example, if you like did want them to maybe write like a section of the proposal or leverage the tool. There's a couple different ways to go there. And that's one that we think is good. We do have the ability to create like limited members and kind of custom access as well. So you can kind of add a teaming partner as a user on your profile just with limited visibility into certain things. So that's a specific one we can actually somewhat customize as well. Okay, so David, I see you have a question as well. Can you speak to how Cletus can identify teaming partners who are primes for a firm who for firms who are typically subs to larger firms? That's a great question as well. So there's multiple ways to do that. I always say like the best way to do this is going to be looking at awards to kind of determine either who the winner is of the contract or if we're before that, maybe in like a pre-forecasting phase or like it's still out for bid, seeing who the bidders might be. Great question for Cletus, right? It's got that market intelligence, it's got the whole market out there. And so when you ask it a question like, "Hey, can you look through the prior awards and tell me who you think might be bidding on this?" Cletus can answer that question. And then it can give you their contact info if needed. That's a really good use case and one that we've seen done a lot by people who are looking to be in that sub position for a prime. But this actually goes both ways. It works the same way if you're the prime looking for subs. I hope that answers your question there, David. Joseph, I see another question as well. Can Cletus pick up the process in the middle, i.e., can it ingress a current proposal and take it from there? Yeah, absolutely, right? Just take the proposal that you've currently written, maybe it's halfway done, give it to Cletus and say, hey, this is what I have, make this my current proposal. What else do I need to do? So yeah, you don't need to start from scratch. That's actually a really good point, right? You can literally just give it that proposal as, let's say it's 50% done and tell it what else do I need to complete. And again, it's all pretty akin to using Word. It's just the way you interact with the software is typically going to be agent first. So you would just tell it to do exactly what you just described and then give it the proposal, of course. Sorry, rapid fire there on questions. I really appreciate that, guys. These are great questions. Okay, so one of the most exciting new features is workflows. We're going to dive into this a lot today. This is the true force multiplier for your team, right? When we talk about what your capture team can accomplish when augmented with tons and tons of different automations is really kind of endless, right? Scheduling tasks. Maybe that bid no bid analysis, you don't want to even tell Cletus to run that anymore on each opportunity. You just want Cletus every single time a contract is recommended to automatically run that bid no bid decision making process and then give it logic to say, okay, if this, then put this in my pipeline. If not, don't. Notify my team. Connect it to with a webhook to a different platform, like let's say Salesforce. you can actually set up these really simple to create but very complex automations to really take these workflows to the next level. And this is something our team assists a lot with. So if you have questions, if you have the idea of a workflow, all you have to do is really explain it to us, and we can typically find a way to build it out in this. But really, a plethora of really strong examples here to build, so that again, these processes that you're doing repetitively, whether it's every opportunity or every day or every week, these are like the perfect things to create workflows around, right? Not checking manually yourself, or even a step further than even telling the agent to do it every single time, right? We can tell CLEATUS to tell itself to do it every single time. So it's like a one additional step of automation that's really, really powerful when implemented. In terms of our capabilities and our pricing, this is always one thing that, we've been very big on, is providing this massive set of tools, this incredible set of features for industry leading and industry best pricing, right? Unbeatable pricing in many cases is something that we do. It's just $300 a month that's billed annually, and an additional fee for extra users. Again, happy to discuss on an individual level every customer we do one-on-one demos with, to understand what it is they're looking for and what the best solution is going to be for them. That's a really, really big focus of ours, is making these tools as accessible as possible so that teams of all sizes, of all levels of experience can reap the benefits of what AI can do for them. I see we have an anonymous attendee here asking, would CLEATUS ever be the collectively exhaustive labor force opportunity monopoly business in a box? Yeah, that's a great question. So we are essentially kind of the business in a box, right? We always say we're like the first and last thing you need to get for government contracting. So, we always say, like, you could try to build out these tools. It would take, 5, 10, 20 different platforms to kind of individually purchase and connect together to kind of produce the same result. But what CLEATUS is really that all of these things put into place in one kind of singular platform. And I hope that answers your question there. So next steps, right? This all sounds great, but how do we actually start? Typically the way the process goes is fairly simple. You do a one-on-one onboarding call with one of our team members. One of our expert account executives is going to work with you to answer some of those questions that we posed in the very beginning of this presentation. Understand your processes, learn about your business, and then get you set up with a 7-day free trial. We'll actually build out your entire profile, and then hop on a quick call again to kick off that trial. So all of this can typically happen on your own schedule as you need. And then once your profile is ready to go in that trial phase, the support doesn't end there. It actually just begins. Our team continues to work with you. That account executive that's assigned to you will work with you throughout the whole life cycle of the time that you're with us. You'll get anything from 24/7 chat support with our team, as well as the ability to schedule directly from their calendar additional training calls with either yourself or your team. These are all kind of parts of our commitment to making these tools as accessible as possible. The training is just as important as the platform itself, is what we believe. And so that kind of brings it to an end, right? That's hopefully that brief introduction has helped new users as well as existing users who needed maybe a quick refresher on a little bit about CLEATUS. And so right after this, we can get into a couple specific examples. Oh, I see we have a couple questions first. Joseph Smith. Yes, so CLEATUS does understand the concept of small business categories and incumbency. So really good question, right? CLEATUS is going to know that your business has a WOSB or a SDVOSB set aside, right? From your SAM.gov profile, it's going to already know this, even state and local certifications as well. And it's going to notice that the contract requires that, and it's going to say, hey, you have this, or hey, you don't. And this is a super simple thing for it. It's going to immediately know if that opportunity is a good fit for you or not, purely just, again, based off those certifications. You can even set certain parameters to say, hey, I want these over these, or I prefer these. So that's a really good question there as well. Allison, I see we have a question about what data does CLEATUS ingest that allows it to identify winning proposals with so many factors, right? Multiple different contracts awarded, past awarded winners. This is a really good question as well. So essentially it's using the award data, right? Like who is awarded is explained. And CLEATUS is ingesting that as part of its data ingestion pipeline. So it's knowing who's winning at what price. And then when it comes to the contracts themselves, when you're writing a proposal, right, how it's going to know what is required to be a good proposal, that's actually in the solicitation as well. They're called evaluation factors, right? It's explained what is going to be the biggest factors when evaluating who's going to win this contract. Maybe it's price, maybe it's technical capabilities, maybe it's past performances. The solicitation needs to make that clear. And so CLEATUS is going to understand that from the get-go in that planning phase. And you'll see when you're writing your proposals, one of those planning files it's going to create is going to be called eval factors and gap analyses. So it's going to look at the eval factors to see, okay, these are the things that are big. It's going to then say, hey, these are the gaps that you specifically have. And then it's going to say, hey, this is my win strategy, how I'm going to go about winning this or how we're going to go about winning this. And so all of this is planned and you can, again, adjust these things. If you don't agree or you want to change it, you can. But that's kind of that three-step process there. We Anonymous attendee question here. Does CLEATUS or would it know if CLEATUS hires individual people and not just businesses to work for its directory of government contracts? I think that would depend on the contract itself. It would say that in the contract, like I think a lot of staffing contracts can be kind of posed that way. But I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head for that one. Joseph Smith, I see system requirements. Yeah, just browser. Everything's hosted on a browser, typically preferred Chrome, but for my understanding, everything should be fine. Yeah, you can run this on a laptop. I've seen some people do it from their phone or an iPad. So, fairly minimal system requirements. Alrighty. Apologies, my mouth's getting dry. There's a lot of talking. So I'm gonna get into some of the new stuff with CLEATUS for some of our existing customers here because there has been a lot of incredible changes to the platform very recently. But this is still very relevant to new customers as well. The first thing that we're going to do for you once you're done with your demo or your initial discovery call is we're going to build out a capture profile. And that's what CLEATUS is going to base like how it matches you with opportunities on, right? It's going to understand if you have a UEI code you're already registered on SAM, great. CLEATUS is going to take that UEI code, fetch all the data from SAM, certifications, yeah, set asides, past performances, all that stuff. Or we can enter it in manually as well, kind of like this. This is a demo company account. It'll explain and learn all of these kind of black and white factors about your business. Understand things like your preferences towards like certain locations as well as certain types of contracts. There will be more of these coming as well. But most importantly, it will understand your capabilities, right? What your company can do. It's going to look at things like your cap statement. That's always like the easiest one to upload. But it's also going to understand these capabilities a lot more deeply than any other platform, right? Most are just using like a NACE code or a keyword to just say, hey, construction, 236220. But with CLEATUS, you can tell it what kind of construction. You can say, hey, I do this interior renovation, or if you do IT, you can explain that specific capability that your business has, and CLEATUS will use AI to match that with opportunities that require those capabilities, rather than just simply high level kind of single words or single keywords. It's much, much more in depth than that. And if you go the keyword route, the problem is you're never going to be able to get all of them, right? And then somebody may always use a slightly different word to describe the same thing. But with this, it's going to understand at a much deeper level what your company is capable of doing or wants to be capable of doing. So capabilities are kind of the way that we do that matching, but we then refine on top of these with our preferences. And so this is one of the new updates that came out very recently. And will basically allow you to put these custom sliders on top of anything, right? It could be, in this case, contract value or a certain certification and compliance for woman-owned business opportunities that they're looking for. Whatever it is, you have the ability to slide these things and have like an unparalleled level of control over what opportunities are being recommended to you. For example, here it's looked like they're clearly looking for contracts that don't require a ton of past performances, for example, like less than 5 years. They're looking for, over 50, at least 15 days to bid. They prefer these things. So all of these sliders are not only custom, there are, of course, a ton of pre-made ones that you can choose from, but you can go in here and say, okay, great. You can create your own custom slider as well and add that, and that will affect how CLEATUS matches. So it can match using anything you can think of, essentially. If it's in a solicitation document, like a service or a requirement or a specific like thing in the contract that you're looking to filter more of or less of, that's exactly how you would do it. You would just slide these up or down depending on how much you want or don't want them. And this is something that, again, our team helps you refine. We will help you build this out initially. And if you're saying, hey, I'm just not quite getting the contracts I'm looking for, or I want to see more of these types of contracts, you're able to do that all through these sliders and whatnot. We, of course, then pair that up with things like your past performances. And with this information, CLEATUS has a really great understanding of your business. And we always highlight that the match quality will reflect how well we set up this profile, right? If we don't tell CLEATUS we have something like a certification or a capability, how's it going to know, right? And so that's what it's going to use to match us with those opportunities that ultimately all pop into your recommended section. You'll get email notifications. It's going to do all this for you, all that capture, all that analysis. It's going to tell you the pros, cons, and score so that when you get here to look and you get that email notification, you just say, hey, I'm going to add this to my pipeline. Then you do that and bang, it's in your Kanban board. It's in your view where you can see everything, track all, who is working on what, all from one place. And so that's a big new kind of update that's come to the platform recently is that refine feature. Does anybody have any questions on capture or anything about like finding new opportunities? Oh, I see, Quentin, we have a question here about not having past performances and would it be opportunities just breaking into the space? This is a great point. So not having past performances is something that Cletus needs to know, right? If we don't have past performances, there are contracts that require them. So those we're not a good fit for, but there are those that don't require any. They have no past performance requirements. Those are the ones we're looking for. Cletus is smart enough to look at your company and say, hey, you don't have past performances. So we're going to try to match you with ones that don't require them. And when you do get your first pass performance, it's going to add that, or you're going to add it to your profile. And now it knows. And so that's kind of how that wheel starts to turn, right? Everybody had to get their first pass performance somehow. And so what we need to avoid is bidding on ones that do require pass performances, for example. And so that's again why that section is so important if you do and don't have them. It's important either way, right? I feel like it's sometimes a misconception that it's impossible to break into this industry. Well, if that was the case, then how are there, 800,000 contractors? And that's always what we say is it's not impossible. You're just either looking in the wrong place or just unsure of how to go about doing things. And that's what Cletus is there for, to help you, A, determine those paths, and B, ultimately find you the right opportunities to even do that on. So the thing we wanted to talk about was workflows. So we've built a few for this company that are kind of, again, unique to this company, but very good ones to start playing around with yourselves as well as telling us about so we can help build them out. And I'll kind of walk through this workflow that we built out. It's called a go, no go analysis workflow. And essentially what it's doing is every time a contract hits our pipeline, so every time we take one from recommended or we take one from search and add it to this pipeline, we are telling Cletus, hey, run this strategy. I have a go, no go analysis strategy. That's this custom step that I made, right? Run this and then output a variable, a score out of 100. And then if that score is over 80, I want you to send me a Slack notification. I want you to shoot me an email and I want you to change the phase to, hey, I'm bidding on this, right? That's now an automation so that anytime the contract is there, that next step is automated. But you could build on this. You could continue to keep building on here and adding more steps and more parts of the process. So whatever your process is we're building an automated system. I will say we're not too many steps away from literally everything from it finding opportunities up to that 80% done proposal is just all done while you sleep. It's not even requiring that single click that it currently requires. So that's what we're building towards. And workflows are just a huge part of getting there. So we always want to say like workflows are a big component of how you build out these automations. This in itself is like a person. It's just going to keep doing this every time it's brought this opportunity. You see it's ran like 19 times. And that's kind of the process of stringing these types of workflows together, and they will represent um, your department or your team members is really how we like to phrase these. So lots of potential there for workflows. I want to highlight that even building the workflows is something you can do agentically. This is a brand new beta feature as well that we added, where even like creating this kind of JSON of like the blocks and how they connect can also be done agentically. You just simply tell it, say, hey, Cletus, I'm trying to create a bid no bid deciding workflow that um, you know source contracts into the right pipeline fields for me. And you would tell it that, and it will give it a first pass at, how to build this out. And you can even refine it all by just communicating with it if, clicking and dragging these is, you're not sure where to start, for example. I see Joseph here. How long does it take to go from dead stop to starting a proposal response? Just as simple as one click, actually. It takes, anywhere from like 5 to 10 minutes to put together a full response for a proposal, and we can actually share that next as well. But essentially, the how close your proposal is to completed will be determined by A, how complex the response needs to be, and how much information it has about you. So over time, it will improve. And you will, as you add more information to your profile, you'll be able to get to a more completed proposal quicker, for example. So I'll always say the first one will take the longest because it will have most likely the least amount of information about you, but we'll help you through the onboarding process and building out a document hub that has all the information that CLEATUS would need so that you don't need to provide it. But again, as you provide more information, it will get more and more and more complete. So that's a big one. I'm going to open up the proposal as well to kind of talk about this specifically. You can see this one. I'm about halfway, probably a little over halfway ready to start building this proposal and shipping it. And essentially, what CLEATUS did was, like I said, on one click, it built all its planning files, right? Compliance matrices, figured out the evaluation factors, did a gap analysis. It ran through all the different steps I would need, everything from my outline to my win strategy. And that was its plan. That's what it's telling us is, hey, this is how I'm going to approach this proposal. It then immediately started making my actual submission files, right? Like my technical section, my past performances section. It built the sections that it knew it needed in order to write the right response to this. And one of the best things to also simultaneously answer your question, Joseph, is there's no need for templates now, right? Templates are kind of a thing of the past now because CLEATUS is dynamically determining what's required. But if you have your own existing templates or you get a template somewhere, you can actually put that in your document hub and tell CLEATUS, hey, follow along with this template, right? If not, you don't need to. That's just something that's optional that you can do. But the idea is that all of this is dynamic. Nothing needs to even be a template. It's figuring out what it needs based off of the information that it has about your business and what it knows it requires. So all of this is just done in one step. And then your process for then doing the last remaining 10 to 20% is just by reading it, right? It will tell you what it wasn't able to do. I don't have blank, or I didn't I didn't fill in this section because I didn't know this about you, right? It'll tell you that. And if you said, hey, give me that document, you can literally just upload the document that it's asking for and then tell it, okay, great, now write that section. And then it would. How you interact with what's in here, you can, of course, go in and edit it, is totally done via the agent. So if the government, another question from Joseph. So if the government gives you a template, can CLEATUS ensure the proposal is compliant format-wise? Exactly. That's exactly what we're trying to say is like if there is a template requirement, whether it's one that you give it or it's in the solicitation the government provided it, CLEATUS will follow along with that template. And the way to get it to do that is as easy as just telling it, right? That's always your first reaction now to interact with what's here, to continue to do that last 10% is always your first instinct should be go to our agent. You can see here, I have something loaded in here. I said, perform a red team review, put your findings in a separate review folder. I'm telling it right now to go do this action, go perform this thing. I want you to do this for me. And CLEATUS is going to go do this. It's going to create a folder. It's going to review what I've written so far and tell me if there's any specific things I should do, add, or remove. And it's going to, again, tell us what else we need to do. And this is like a really great example of like that last 10 to 20%, how we can approach doing that. We can just tell CLEATUS what is needed to be done and give it the information it needs if there is any, either by providing it right here or by simply putting it in our document hub, and CLEATUS can again go ahead and just execute on these remaining tasks. That's like the most important thing. This is how you execute and orchestrate these tasks. Another great recent update, as this is answering, was also around the inclusion of being able to drop like signed forms, signed things like that in here. You can just drag them in and drop them into your submission package. You can also give them to the agent, via chat. and then just say, hey, put this in here, for example. So there's kind of multiple ways now that you can really complete these responses without having to leave the platform other than to sign something. So we'll see here as it's creating our kind of red team review. So it's you can tell it, hey, create a new a document or a new folder. It's all agentic. You just simply tell the agent what you want it to do. And CLEATUS does, oh, there we go. You see, it created a new folder on here. And in this folder, it's probably, oh, there you go. It's already wrote it. It wrote its areas of weakness, right? Areas that we can improve on, areas of severity, right? Things that it's like you got to address these. And it'll again create an issue log. It will even tell you what to do in order to fix them. And there you go. So it finished its red team review. Our next step could be, okay, great. What do you need in order to make these edits and finalize this proposal? You just give it to it and tell it to make those edits, and CLEATUS would go and make those edits. That's again that even the process of the actions that you need to take, it's all done via our agent here. So this is really how we go ahead and do this. And again, it's all tied to your document hub, where all that juicy institutional knowledge lives, right? Anything from those past performances, that technical information, your templates, it's all in there. And CLEATUS is drawing the information when writing from the document hub. I see we have another great question here from Allison. So let's say I notice that something in the win strategy document is incorrect. How do you go about correcting that step early in the process, and how does it affect the other documents that CLEATUS has created? That's a great question. So you can go back to this win strategy, and let's say, once it's done its first draft, and say, hey, I actually don't agree with win theme 4. I want it to be this. You can either go in and edit this yourself, or just tell CLEATUS, hey, just tell it verbatim what you don't like about it. Tell it to update the win strategy. And then once it does, you'll see the updates. Like everything that's added will be green, everything that's removed will be red. Um, and I can give an example here. I don't like win theme 3. Let's improve it. Again, I'm just kind of winging it, but let's say there was like a specific example that you wanted to improve that win theme with. CLEATUS would improve it, and then you just say, okay, great, let's make sure edit the proposal to match that win theme. You just tell it again, and it'll just rewrite what it needs to rewrite to align better with that win theme. So the answer to like 90% of the how do I do this questions will be just tell the agent to do it. And that's like a super common theme that we have as well with this. And so we'll see kind of like what it thinks it should update with these win themes. And if it gives me a good response, I'd be like, oh, there you go. So it already did it. It updated the win theme. Um, you see, it's completely redone it. Um, And if we liked that, oh, there we go. So it told us it updated it. It told us why it thought it was stronger. So you just got to make sure you press keep all. So that'll like keep all the edits and lock those edits in. Now I would just go, great. Let's make sure our submission or our response, our proposal aligns with that win theme. You'd hit go. CLEATUS would make all the updates you wanted to. So that's like a great example of how you would change these planning processes as well. And again, all of this is tracked, right? Your compliance matrix is telling you exactly what's addressed or not currently addressed, right? What those gaps are. This is always a great thing to be seeing. And because the agent sees it as well, you don't have to manually go through this thing. You can say, hey, what percentage of the requirements have I met, right? You could say that. You could say, okay, highlight in put a create a plan on how we're going to address those. And CLEATUS will put together a plan, and then you say, great, go ahead and execute that plan. And it's going to say, oh, wait, I need something. And then you give it to it. And that's how that process goes, right? You communicate back and forth with this agent. And as you can see, it's fairly quick. It's going to be doing these things. But again, most importantly, with all of this, with all this good stuff in here, that's your company's document hub. It's that brain. It's where it's pulling it from. This is what makes it not generic. This is what makes it tailored specifically to you. And that's really what brings the whole thing together. Okay, so that was, I'm sure, a lot. And so if you haven't already, we always urge you schedule a one-on-one demo with our team. You can do that straight through our website. Just head to Cleat.ai and get CLEATUS, and it'll book a time with one of our account executives who can dive into these things specifically with you. If you are an existing customer, reach out to your account executive, schedule a call with us. You can do that all through the platform. You'll see it right here if you have an account exec assigned. If not, we'll be sure to assign one to you. But you can literally access their calendar, jump on a call, and we'd love to talk, see how we can build more things together, and again automate more of our processes. But that kind of concludes everything that we wanted to share. I just wanted to leave a few more minutes here for any questions from anybody that either we didn't get to yet. Thank you, Quentin. I appreciate that. Yeah, really hope that everybody enjoyed this week's webinar. We'll have another one in a few weeks, and another one a few weeks from then. So always happy to, really glad to see familiar faces as well as some new ones. I'll leave a few more minutes here for any last second questions. But if not, again, really appreciate everybody's time. Really, really looking forward to hopefully getting on some one-on-one calls with you all as well. All righty. Thank you, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week here and the rest of your Wednesday. And like I said, we look forward to being in touch with everybody. Take care, everyone.